There's a great opportunity to partner with the private sector and talk about their goals on emissions reduction. I support Canada's oil and gas sector. There are many conversations to have with mayors of other urban centres who have declared climate emergencies, because Canada's oil and gas firms have repeatedly demonstrated leadership on a global stage.
Calgary Mayor Jyoti Gondek has long known that Canadian oil and energy are the most ethical sources of energy in the world.
Whether through innovations in technology that minimize impact to the environment or unmatched standards in health and safety practices.
Has Jyoti suddenly had a coming-to-Greta moment?
How dare you!
Or is she just playing the exact same game as celebrities like Leonardo DiCaprio and Jane Fonda?
You're shaking your head, obviously.
I'm shaking my head Indian style, which means no.
Right.
Adam Sos here for Rebel News with a quick update on our NoClimateEmergency.com campaign. Leonardo DiCaprio is one of the most outspoken critics of Canadian energy.
Kind of looks like Mordor.
Like what?
Mordor from Lord of the Rings.
It's pretty rich coming from him, considering the fact that he has 6 palatial mansions that clearly need to be heated. He also is a frequent mega yacht renter and no doubt has taken his share of private jet flights across this country and in fact around the world. He, despite all of these emissions that are allegedly causing climate change, has the audacity to tell us that we need to be driving more efficient vehicles.
Our planet cannot be saved unless we leave fossil fuels in the ground where they belong.
I am more than well aware that rich people can be concerned about poverty, or a well-fed person can be upset about world hunger. But there's a special hypocrisy in place when the greatest carbon emissions contributors are criticizing the rest of us. In fact, because of eco-taxes and green policies, day-to-day living costs are becoming untenable for average Canadians. Leonardo DiCaprio and company are very much the Marie Antoinettes of the modern day, saying that we can eat our vegan cakes and we can drive our electric cars. It's absolutely ridiculous that they criticize us when they themselves are clearly the root of the problem.
We are the last generation who can stop climate change and mass extinction. We cannot turn back time.
You seriously wonder if these celebrities aren't privy to the hypocrisy of their climate output. They take private jets and then hop on a helicopter to do a tour of the oil sands as a publicity stunt to criticize just how terrible they are, seemingly unaware of the irony that they're using fossil fuels to do it. Jane Fonda did exactly that.
It's like someone took my skin and peeled it off my body over a very large surface.
Unless your peeled off skin is taken and pinned behind your ears to create the illusion of youth.
And it's like they simply aren't cluing into the fact that their entire lives revolve around and depend on fossil fuels.
The world's going to be a beautiful, wonderful place once we just decide to make this leap. And it's going to happen. I mean, it's already happening. We're in the end times of carbon, baby.
These celebrities are not climate experts. Most of them aren't even scientists. What they are is professional line regurgitators. So it should come as no surprise that they're the ones chosen to echo and parrot climate talking points.
So the basic idea is that we want to tax bad activities that have negative side effects on other people in society.
Setting aside for a moment the fact that the Canadian energy sector is one of the largest employers of Indigenous communities in this country, and that it is often lifting communities out of poverty while Indigenous Service Canada sits on their hands, there's also no denying that Canadian energy is among the cleanest and the most ethical in the entire world.
No country would find 173 billion barrels of oil in the ground and just leave them there.
Calgary Mayor Jyoti Gondek has long known that Canadian oil and energy are the most ethical sources of energy in the world. We have footage of her saying as much herself.
I support Canada's oil and gas sector. Why? Because Canada's oil and gas firms have repeatedly demonstrated leadership on a global stage, whether through innovations in technology that minimize impact to the environment or unmatched standards in health and safety practices. That's not empty rhetoric. It's rooted in research and review.
So what changed? Has Jyoti suddenly had a coming-to-Greta moment?
How dare you!
Or is she just playing the exact same game as celebrities like Leonardo DiCaprio and Jane Fonda? If Jyoti Gondek really believed that there was a climate emergency, as she and city councilors have decreed, you think she would be doing everything to reduce her carbon impact, wouldn't she? She certainly wouldn't fly off to the World Petroleum Congress in Texas to espouse new oil technologies. There's no way she'd do that, except she did. She hopped on a jet, a fossil fuel powered jet, and went down to Texas to meet with these world leaders. Now, she said that the conference was all about future technologies and carbon reduction, but in case you don't know, those are buzzwords that these oil companies use because they want to keep drilling, but they don't want to be in trouble with climate activists.
There's a lot of things to accomplish in Houston. There are many conversations to have with mayors of other urban centers who have declared climate emergencies. There's a great opportunity to partner with the private sector and talk about their goals on emissions reduction.
You know, I understand that Jyoti Gondek is trying to bring business back to downtown Calgary. It's very much en vogue to spout eco-talking points. But it shouldn't be. We should never have embraced this narrative that Canadian energy is wrong.
So we are dependent, if we want to solve the climate crisis, on the fact that hopefully renewables like solar and wind will become cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. The more money we funnel into them, the more we invest into them. And ultimately, it will solve that problem. But you're shaking your head, obviously.
I'm shaking my head Indian style, which means no.
Right.
We know the science tells us and common sense tells us that Canadian energy is ethical. It's time now for us to put climate emergencies behind us and to stand up for Canadian energy. As always, I want to thank you all for tuning in. For Rebel News, I'm Adam Sos. If you have had enough of Canadian politicians and celebrities bashing ethical Canadian energy, go to noclimateemergency.com. There you can sign our petition and click our one-click politics button, which will allow you to send a message directly to Jyoti Gondek telling her that you don't support her crazed climate hysteria.
In very hard-headed terms, you've got to worry about the national security implications of this and the capacity for the existing world order as we understand it to survive the kinds of strains that the scientists are predicting without action.